How to overcome excessive craving for sweets. It has long been scientifically proven that sugar acts on the brain in the same way that cocaine does. This proves the comparison of images of brain activity after the use of sugar and cocaine. And despite the fact that the narcotic effect of cocaine in terms of impact on consciousness is stronger, attachment to sugar is formed even faster and holds a person much stronger. Why do we crave sweets so much? How to get rid of it? What is missing in the body? Why you want sweets, common reasons. What is missing in the body if you want sweets? 5 simple techniques to get rid of sugar cravings. The best alternatives to sweet and starchy foods. Often the problem of cravings for sweets lies not in the physical, but in the mental sphere. What emotions and sensations do we make up for with the help of sweets? Let's take a closer look at these and other questions below. Why you want sweets, common reasons. The main problem with sugar is that we are accustomed to sweets from childhood. Some parents build a whole methodology of education on this. As a reward, they treat the child with sweets; as a punishment, they deprive them of this joy. And everything would be fine, but it forms a destructive model of behavior in the child's psyche. Even as an adult, he can constantly implement this model of behavior, motivating himself mainly by eating sweets. That is why many people eat sweets during some difficult, stressful situations. This allows you to return to childhood, to feel happy, protected and joyful again. But this is a lie. Sweet is a surrogate for happiness. Thus, the craving for sweets is formed in early childhood. Strong cravings for sweets are most often due to psychological reasons. First, as mentioned above, this behavior model is projected from childhood. Secondly, the sweet taste is responsible for the emotion of joy. And if there is not enough happiness and joy in life, a person constantly stimulates himself with sweets. Please note that sweets are most often consumed in the evenings or at night. It is at this time of day that a person feels longing, loneliness most of all. He is overtaken by obsessive unpleasant thoughts. And the root of the problem is most often precisely this: the reasons for cravings for sweets lie in psychosomatics. A person really wants sweets when there is a lack of happiness in his life. Other reasons are physiological. Sweet tastes are designed by nature to release dopamine. The fact is that sweet fruits are healthy food for us, and sweetness is a sign that the fruit is ripe. And nature has thought out a system of motivational reinforcement so that our brain reacts with the release of dopamine to an increase in blood sugar levels. And everything would be fine, but with the advent of artificial sweets, this became the cause of a real drug addiction to sugar. Why do you always crave sweets? Almost all drugs work exactly according to this principle. They provoke an inadequately high release of dopamine into the blood, and this causes a feeling of euphoria. Sugar is no exception. And just like with all drugs, there is one problem: the body's tolerance to sweets is gradually growing. The body begins to respond to the usual dose of sweets with a smaller release of dopamine, and this leads to the need to constantly increase the dosage. The fact is that the release of dopamine gives a feeling of joy and euphoria, but its concentration in the blood plasma quickly decreases, and this forces a person to eat sweets again in order to return himself to his former happy state. At the same time, the body's tolerance grows, and if at first it's 1 candy at breakfast, then later it's already 3 candies, 5, and so on. At the same time, the frequency of sweets also increases. Periods of euphoria become shorter and shorter, and this forces a person to eat sweets more and more often. Thus, there are only 2 reasons why you want sweets, either psychological dependence or physiological, but most often they reinforce one another. There is another reason why you want sweets: the presence of parasites in the body. Sugar is an excellent food for various parasites in the human body, and it has already been proven that parasites can, by releasing certain chemical components, influence the brain of their host, forcing it to do what they need. It's the same with sugar. If the parasites don't get enough food, they will release certain chemicals that will signal to the brain that the body needs sugar. But sugar in this case is needed not by the body, but by parasites. What is missing in the body if you want sweets? What vitamins are missing if you want sweets? There is another secret why a person is constantly drawn to sweets. The desire to eat sweets can be a sign of a lack of chromium. This chemical element ensures normal blood glucose levels. And here there is a vicious circle. If there is a lack of chromium in the body, this can become one of the reasons for cravings for sweets, and if we start eating sweets, this provokes washing out of chromium from the body and the problem only gets worse. The less chromium, the stronger the craving for sweets, the more sweet in the diet, the less chromium. And the problem will only get worse. Thus, it is quite possible that you want sweets from a lack of chromium. So, what should you eat when you crave sweets? The main two foods rich in chromium are broccoli and beets, best raw, as heat treatment reduces the nutritional value of products. It is not recommended to include various dietary supplements in the diet to saturate the body with chromium. In all such supplements, all vitamins are artificially synthesized and for the most part are not absorbed by the body. Thus, chromium can relieve sugar cravings if the cause of sugar addiction is a lack of chromium. How to get rid of sugar cravings? As we have already found out, there can be many reasons why you can constantly want sweets. And it is better to approach the issue of liberation from sugar addiction in a complex way. We found out why you really want sweets. It's either a behavior pattern laid down in childhood, or a lack of happiness and joy, as an option, an attempt to relieve stress, or a purely physiological addiction, based on the release of dopamine, or due to a lack of chromium or the presence of parasites in organism. Increased cravings for sweets occur for one of these reasons, or for several at once. And, therefore, there are also many methods of working with this dependence. 5 simple techniques to get rid of sugar cravings. Let's start in order. If the cause of this addiction lies deep in childhood and the craving for sweets is the principle of motivating yourself to action, try to reconsider your goals and objectives. If what you're doing doesn't inspire you, maybe you shouldn't stimulate yourself with sweets, but just find an activity that you enjoy. Cravings for sweets due to a lack of joy are solved by finding new hobbies and, again, looking for inspiration in what interests you. 1. Hatha yoga or exercise. If the constant craving for sweets is due to the habit of relieving stress in this way, then alternative ways can be found, doing physical activity, hatha yoga, meditation and other techniques. In general, physical activity is the best way to escape from a stressful situation. Therefore, if possible, you can simply clean the apartment, and your soul will immediately feel better. 2. Analytical meditation. Another way is analytical meditation. If there is an irresistible craving for sweets, you should not immediately give in to it or, on the contrary, overcome it with an effort of will, just meditate on your desire. Ask yourself questions. Do I really want this? Do I really need it now? Will this solve my problem? Will it get easier for me? When we begin to reason logically over illogical things, this makes it easier to overcome addictions. Because addiction is always something irrational and no addiction tolerates a cold-blooded rational approach. 3. Foods rich in chromium. To eliminate physical dependence on sweets, you need to try to introduce foods rich in chromium into the diet. Beets, broccoli, etc., and the same chocolate and other sweets can be replaced with natural products, carob, fruits, dates, raisins, fruit marshmallows, and so on. By the way, you can make excellent homemade chocolate from carob, tasty and healthy. 4. Purification practice. As we said above, it happens that the body wants sweets when there are parasites in the body. It is they who send signals to the brain that sweets should be consumed. This is where cleansing practices such as Shankha Prakshalana, which cleanses the intestines of all parasites, can help. If necessary, you can perform this practice several times with a break of 2 to 3 weeks. The main thing is not to return to sweets after cleansing, so as not to form pathogenic microflora again. Please note that there are contraindications for this practice and, as a rule, it must be performed under the guidance of an experienced mentor so as not to harm your body. 5. Practice fasting. Another way of purification, both physical and mental, is fasting. You should not immediately drive yourself into severe austerities. You can start with 1 or 2 days of fasting. As a rule, cravings for harmful foods weaken after fasting. Although it happens the other way around, we pull the pendulum in one direction, and then it flies in the other, and we begin to crave sweets even more. Therefore, each one has its own method. You can give up harmful sweets almost painlessly. You just need to replace them with healthy natural sweet foods. Ideally, these can be fruits that can become a full-fledged dessert, or some healthy food recipes, carob sweets, various date sweets, and others. Raw halva is a great way to replace harmful sweets. It is enough just to grind the soaked sunflower seeds in a blender, mix them with honey and coconut oil and leave them in the refrigerator overnight. And such a useful sweetness will be an excellent replacement for the usual harmful products. Consider the various options for replacing sweets in more detail. Thank you for taking the time to watch our content. If you find our video interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for upcoming content. Additionally, we have included some valuable links in the video description below, which we encourage you to check out. We look forward to your continued presence on our channel.